And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. For today's podcast episode, I have John H. Mudgett with me. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And he's an independent author who just wrote his first book. And give us a little bit of an introduction into the book and how you planned this book out and stuff like that. I'm very interested in getting to know how you came up with the concept for this book.
Well, that's a funny question because I don't know. It's just been in my head for years. I was watching Forrest Gump for the longest time. You know, I watched it like 6 times and I fell in love with that movie. And then I was watching some of these other movies like The Copycat Killer, Sling Blade, it's a couple more, Mean Season, Cabin by the Lake. I don't know if you heard any of these or not, but
I have.
But I started thinking about these movies and I'm thinking, man, you know, what about if I had a serial killer who met, like Forrest Gump just met, you know, people out there in real life and it influenced the things he had to do. And so after watching that and then watching these other movies, I was thinking to myself, you know what, my book sounds better than, I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but I was saying my book sounds better than some of these other movies. So, you know, I think, and I started talking to people that I worked with and stuff. And I was telling them the concept about, you know, what if it's, you know, how did Ted Bundy kill 2 people in one day? Right. What if somebody else was there and did it? You know what I mean? And then what if those 2 people met? And then, you know, you could take it from there. So
I definitely like that concept, to be honest with you, because what are the odds of 2 serial killers happen to meet at the same time and place, and Bundy coaching him or coaching him on how to kill somebody to make it look like him? Because, you know, like they say, imitation is the what's the word I'm thinking of? Basically, when someone imitates somebody, is basically imitating somebody, it gives somebody great pleasure in imitating somebody. But you know,
I know what you're saying,
yeah.
But it's not even that he imitated them; it's just they happened to be there on the same day and they ran into one another. I don't know. You kind of have to read the book to figure it out. But there's other instances like that, like, you know, he runs into Charles Whitman, he runs into Jim Morrison of the Doors. And how do you run into these people? You know, read the book, you'll see, and it's not far-fetched. It's very plausible. Very, very plausible. Maybe I know a guy who's 78 years old and he told me all this story and I just don't want to really reveal that there's John really lives. You know, who knows?
Right. And I like the idea that this is actually called Crazy as Crazy Does. And, you know, and it's actually a life of the serial killer, like you mentioned in the book. And my question is this: how did you come up with that title for that book? What made you say, hey, look, I like this idea of having a crazy as a crazy does kind of situation? And is it just because the serial killer just happens to crack on a certain day and he just goes crazy? The breaking points, what exactly was the motive behind the title?
Well, originally I was going to name it, I had 2 names in mind: milk cartons, because, you know, you get pictures of, you know, missing people on the milk cartons. Right. And I had It's in the Blood, because I don't know if it's nature or nurture, but I really believe that, you know, some of these people, it's in their DNA. It's just, does it get out? You know, not everybody kills, but something triggers that to make them kill. But then I kept thinking, you know, I have to pay homage to Forrest Gump. So instead of stupid as stupid does, I've named it Crazy as crazy does, because that's where my whole idea came from. A dark, demented, twisted Forrest Gump. So there you have it.
Okay. That's actually pretty dark. I would actually pay money to go see a dark and twisted Forrest Gump kind of story and everything. That'd be definitely be interesting. Also, too, Brandy actually helped me out with the quote: "Imitation's sincerest form of flattery." That's the quote that I was thinking of. And Brandy also says that she likes the title.
Oh, thank you.
Like I said, I definitely love the title itself. It's original, it's authentic. It has that Forrest Gump kind of flavor that you mentioned as well, which is something that I really like that you played around with and make it something dark and has that kind of dark kind of sense of kind of humor to it, if you will, with Stupid as a Stupid Does. And I'd like that driving point. That's actually why I reached out to you too, was because of the fact that I remember reading the whole entire plot where the serial killer aspect is in first person, which is something that I really find very interesting, because in most books that I read, they don't wind up being in first person. Perfect example that I just got done reading a James Patterson book called The Russian, and that's about a serial killer, but it's not in first person. And then there's also the Stephen King book Mr. Mercedes, and of course the Hartfield character is not in first person. And I'm like, I wish that they would actually have captured the first person perspective, because I feel like that you can do a lot with the first person perspective and give thoughts into their heads a lot better than having to go into just explaining who Brady Hartfield is, or explaining the Russian serial killer and stuff like that with James Patterson books. I just feel like that you can capture it a lot better with the first person kind of view with it. What made you decide and everything about doing a first person viewpoint? Because I find that very intriguing.
I'll tell you, it doesn't start off first person, of course. Right. It introduces the main. There's only 3 or 4 main characters, but they're not even main. John's the main one, and everybody else is just there to help the story along. But I'm sorry. Say that question to me one more time. I'm sorry. I'm losing my train of thought.
No. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. Basically, I just asked about how did you come up with the concept of doing it in first person?
I know right. Okay, yeah. Well, the first person part, it came to me. I learned something in the military a long time ago. It's called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And to me, it was easier to write in the first person than it was to write in the third person. So that's basically your answer right there. And the way he runs into everybody, he's telling his story. Once, starting at the 5th chapter, it's all first person.
Okay, I definitely like that twist to it, where it's actually first person, like it's in third person through the first 4 chapters, and then once you get into the 5th chapter, it's the meat and potatoes of what you're setting up. I like that. It has that slow. It seems like it has that slow build to it, to where you're actually getting to know him outside of other people's perspectives before diving into his first person perspective.
Right.
So,
exactly. Yes.
So that's something that I really have to say that is really missing in some books that I read, where you don't have that slow build and that slow tension like you just put into your book. And that's something that I really have to say that I really appreciate that you did with this book. And then you gave that slow tension, and then you actually released that tension in the 5th chapter rather than just letting it burn out in the 1st or 2nd chapter and everything, because I like a slow build, and that's what I like. I like slowly digesting my food. I don't like to hurry up and stuff my face and everything. I like to actually just sit there, let the food digest, and let it nourish my body, and this is exactly what I want with the book. So anyways, another question that I also wanted to know was, how would you describe the conflict with each character?
The conflict with each character. Well, John is very conflicted, as you already know, right?
Right, as most serial killers are.
Yeah. But he's conflicted because he's getting old. He's built this legacy, but he can't share it with anybody. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's like he wants to brag about all, I wouldn't say accomplishments or achievements, but he wants to brag about what he's done. But who do you tell that to? And how do you tell that? So that's his conflict, And then he's conflicted with the FBI agent on a couple different levels. He doesn't know whether he wants to kill her, if he wants to keep her alive, let her go. He's not, you know what I mean? He's kind of conflicted with that. And also, I was reading what you said down here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But anyway.
So it's okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to distract you.
No, it's all right.
Okay.
And then Carla, she's actually the FBI agent. She has her little conflicts of her own. She's in her mid-40s. Let me think for a second. Her major conflict, I guess, would be she discovers who John really is, and what, you know, his secrets, and she's conflicted as to what to do with him or how she's going to deal with him if she ever gets that chance. And then you got young William. He's 9 years old, so he doesn't have any conflicts except he just knows his mother's a little overbearing. And then you have one last character. His name is Chris. He's like the sidekick for John. And he's conflicted because, of course, he wants to be in charge. You know, he doesn't want to be the right-hand man. He wants to be the boss. So there's a little conflict there between those two. And it all, you know, culminates into some action and some suspense.
Okay.
Did I answer that question right? Or?
Yeah. I totally get it. But yeah, that's actually something that I totally get and everything. It's kind of like a cat and mouse game, kind of, with the serial killer, though, too, with the FBI agent and stuff like that. And also, too, trying to do the investigation, which is something that I really do appreciate as well. Then also, too, this is also something else I was wondering about. Tell us more about John Goodman and what makes him tick.
Well, he's a product of nurture and nature. And of course, that transforms him into the ruthless killer that he is. He has no remorse, no resentments. But like I said before, you know, his chief complaint is everything he's done. How do I put this? Everything he's done, he can't share it with anybody. And that's his dilemma. And that's why he, you know, kidnaps the people he kidnaps, and he tells a story to those people. That makes sense.
Yeah, because it's basically the only people that he can actually open up to is basically strangers. He can't go off to anybody he knows or anything like that because they think that he might be, they might actually have to give him some psychiatric help or something like that. But going to strangers that he doesn't really know or anything like that, he's just going to see in a first glance and then walk away, and then they go about their day like nothing even happened or anything like that. It doesn't give him a chance to be a suspect or to anything, in a sense, and it gives him a chance to open up to strangers to where he doesn't have to worry about overthinking about his motives or anything as much, because it's easy
at
to
the end he's going to kill him, you know what I mean? He's whoever hears his story doesn't live long. Right,
exactly. It also opens up the door for trusting as well, for where people will feel vulnerable around him to be able to open up to him. And then he has that little closeness with them. And then as soon as that closeness is there, he pretty much wipes them off, pretty much. So I definitely like that as well. And then, you know, I have to say, I mean, the original thought process with this book is just fantastic on the way that you dived into it and the way you describe each character within the book itself. And, you know, this is also another thing, though, too, that I was wondering about, too. When you have a book like this, how long does it actually take you to actually write each chapter, or how long does it actually take for you to write this down or anything like that? Because I know there has to be sometimes where you're just like, oh, damn, I have writer's block and stuff like that. There's just got to be, I have to take a break or something. I got to take a breather, let this digest a little bit to where my characters can flow.
Well, before I get into that part real quick, I just want to say one more thing about John. Even though he's demented as he is, people find him, they don't hate him, if that's the right word. You know what I mean? They and it's not that they feel sorry for him, it's just the way he handles himself and the situations that he's presented with. So you'll find John to be kind of intriguing and likable in a way. It's kind of weird. But to get back to your question about how long does it take me to write a book? This is actually, you know, it's my first book I've written, and I'm laughing because how long has Forrest Gump been out? Since 1996, I think it was. And so what is that? 20? Well, when I published it, it was like 23 years, but it was life circumstances that held me back a little bit. But when I did finally sit down and say, look, I'm going to do this no matter what, it took me around 9 months to put it all together. Because for years, what I've been doing is anytime writer's block isn't a thing for me, because some writers will sit down, they say, okay, for 2-3 hours, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to think about what I'm going to write. That didn't happen with me. Most of my stuff came to me at night in my dreams, and I had a notebook by my bed, and I would wake up and I would just start writing whatever I could remember, whatever came to my mind at that point. And I just kept piling it away. And then finally, when I did decide to write it, like I said, it only took me 9 months. Once I brought it out, I made an outline of what I was going to do. I made my timeline, who was going to be in it, because, you have to make the timeline. You have to have the timeline correct, or the story won't be believable, But anyway, yeah, it took me around 9 months from actually saying this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it to when I self-published the book.
I find that greatly inspiring, though, where you sit on this thing for a while, right? You're like, I don't know if I should do this or not. There's that question in your mind. It's like, it sounds like a good idea, but how's the delivery going to go? How is this going to look on black and white? How is this going to look on the pages that I'm going to write on and everything? In my head, it looks great, but how is it going to flow out once I actually put this on here and everything? And then after that, you're like, I don't know if I should go ahead and do this or not. And then you sit on it for a little bit, then you're reminiscing. I'm like, what would it be like if I did put this out? Should I put this out? Does the public need to know about this book? Should I write about it? And then next thing you know, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to go on ahead, go with it, see what happens. I'm going to write about this thing and see where it brings me. Because the thing is, it's actually worth the risk, because you don't know what kind of adventure you're going to go on. You don't know where certain things are going to take you. So therefore, because you believe in it and everything, and you go with it, it opens up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, well, like I said before, I think it's right up there with some of these movies that were out before, something maybe even a little better than some. Sling Blade, I like Sling Blade, but I think they could have done a little bit better job with some of the storyline. But
right. Well, speaking of Forrest Gump, though, that script was sitting in a box for years and at the studios, and they didn't even want to take a chance on it or anything like that. As a matter of fact, Forrest Gump was supposed to be 350 pounds.
Really? Well,
yeah.
See, we're the movie buffs, so you'll know all that stuff.
Right.
And what's funny? Yeah. What's funny too is I'm sorry to cut you off, but what's funny too is the actor there that played Forrest Gump. He doesn't do naughty movies, if you will, and I think he would be the perfect person to do John Goodman.
I could see it, to be honest with you. He has that innocence, right? He's got that innocence about Tom Hanks. Always has this innocence about himself, where it's like he can go on ahead, he can be agitated in one scene, and then go into it being all innocent, like he didn't do anything in another scene. I could see him playing off the innocence, and then also too playing somebody that is very complex at the same time. Because it's actually hard to get that mixture of both, which is why I like Michael C. Hall for Dexter, because I feel like he was able to bring that complexity onto the screen and everything, where basically what winds up happening to Dokes in the police station, and then, he agitates Dokes to the point where Dokes actually pushes Dexter around in the office, and then next thing you know, Dexter acts like he ends up hitting his head on a desk, and therefore that brings into Dokes being fired, and then then next thing you know, Michael C. Hall just goes on and plays innocent with Loretta, and she goes, James, you're fired, you're off the force. And Dexter's like, no, you don't have to fire him. He's just like, but there's that innocence about certain levels of serial killers, where the point is like they can play off your innocence and then also be just as despicable, though, too, in a sense.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
But I love it, though. I love it. So what? My other thing is this, too. Why did you pick 1955 as the time period of your story?
Well, if you look at most of the killers that are in my story, let me think of their names real quick, because, I got so much going on. You got Bundy, you got Kemper, you got Gacy, Charles Whitman, Joe D'Angelo, James Huberty, even Jim Morrison of the Doors. They were all born in the 1940s. So I had to make my guy in that, in that same era. So as he grew up, they would meet each other. And so that's how that happened. Most of those killers were born in the 40s. So
right.
And goes with my timeline.
Exactly. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I love historical fiction where it actually makes sense to have a certain character that's not actually part of the history and he's just a fictional character, and he ends up intertwining with other characters within that historical era. I definitely like that flavor that it has into this thing, because I'm a huge history buff, to be honest with you. And whenever I saw the year 1955, I'm like, okay, what other characters is going to end up meeting, and how is it going to intertwine with those other characters? And you mentioned the Doors, you mentioned other people in pop culture and stuff like that.
Well, not the Doors, but Jim Morrison in particular.
Yeah, Jim Morrison. Yeah, Jim Morrison. But still,
he's crazy himself.
Right, exactly. He's a little eccentric and everything too. And it's going to be interesting to see how they actually interact with each other, because Jim Morrison is actually out there, and here comes John Goodman. And not the actor, but the fictional character for people who are actually tuning in. But here's John Goodman, and he's just over there talking a bunch of nonsense, and he's talking a bunch of nonsense. And before you know it, they actually have their own lingo, their own language, where they're actually thinking that they're making sense to each other, when really they're not making any sense to somebody on the outside of the spectrum, which is something that I really find fascinating about that. If that's is that something that's actually part of the book in itself, where you basically have the two characters where they're kind of like in their own little lingo, their own little language, where it's basically just them spaced out a little bit and just being out there in their own minds, thinking that they are actually making sense?
Well, Jim Morrison in one of his recordings said he killed a hitchhiker one time. And so the way my guy's car broke down, and so Jim decided he was going to pick up my guy, and pick up John Goodman. And John Goodman noticed Jim had a weapon in his hand, and so they started, John took the lead and said, "Hey, I see what you're up to. You're all fucked up in your head, because you're on acid or whatever, you're drunk, whatever. Be a good idea to put that knife down." You know what I mean? And then they started talking that way, and then he shows, I don't want to give away my whole book, but he shows Jimmy what's in the trunk of his car that's broke down. And then Jimmy's like, "Hey, I know a perfect place to go." And then they started, they took off with that person. Oh, what signal is that?
Sorry about that.
Too much?
No. You're good. You're good, man. You're good.
I'm kidding.
Nah. Keep on going. I'm enjoying this.
No, I think that was about it. I was just, lingo wise, I don't think there's really no killer lingo, if you will. It's hard to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just hard to, like you're saying, I have to make it believable, and it's hard to just me and you to bump into one another and have this look and say, "Oh, you're a killer too." You can't do that. It's
right.
Not going to work that way.
Exactly. It's not like it's a meeting, like an AA meeting for serial killers. Hey, you're a killer too? I'm a killer as well. Wait, did we become friends? It doesn't work like that. It's not going to clash that well. It's not Step Brothers, but still, you have to have some type of meeting of the minds to where you can actually adapt into other people's brain, to where, you can actually have somebody that you can open up with and connect with. So that's something that you have to have.
All right. Well, you remember how Forrest Gump taught Elvis how to do his little thing? Well, my guy came up with some verbiage for Jimmy for songs like the Backdoor Man, things like that.
I like that. I definitely liked how you use that analogy and everything with Elvis, with Forrest Gump and everything. I thought that's actually very interesting. But here's the thing. I'm definitely going to check out your book. I'm definitely going to buy it and everything soon, and I'll let you know what I think when I do a deep dive into it. But just the whole entire plot points in itself sounds very good. Here's the thing. Besides writing, what other secret skills do you have?
Well, my wife told me not to get fancy on this, but gardening. I like to garden a lot. I got good fertilizer. I'm just kidding. She said I shouldn't do that because somebody's going to take, FBI might be listening and they're going to come down here and get me. But no,
okay.
I'm a normal guy. I'm an extraordinary uncle. I'd like to think I am anyway, but I do family activities. We do hiking, and my kids are older now. So when we do vacations, we still like to include them. If they can come, we try to take them with us anywhere we can, because, there's never enough time to to spend with your kids. You know what I mean?
No, never enough.
But yeah, not that I've done this in a while, but I'm looking forward to going back and playing paintball again. I'm active like that. I like doing things like that. You know, pretty much normal stuff. Fishing. I've been doing a lot of fishing, kayaking, things like that.
You see,
I don't know if
I like
they're
that sounds pretty cool.
superpowers or extraordinary skills have you, but that's what I do. Kind of boring.
Nah, I like kayaking. I like some outdoor stuff as well. So, and fishing, of course. So that's not, to me, that's not boring. I think that's actually pretty cool though. This other thing though too. Why psychological horror?
Why psychological horror? Well, I've always been intrigued about how one can just, you know, let their emotions or lack of their emotions get the best of them, and then they can just kill somebody without any type of remorse or what's the word I'm looking for? Remorse or or being caught for that matter. They just throw caution to the wind. They think they're smarter than everybody else, and so it intrigues me that somebody could do something like that.
True.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it totally does, because the way our line of thinking is completely different to somebody that has that mindset of like, I can kill somebody without even thinking about it and not having to feel any kind of guilt or shame over it. There are people like that and everything where they can actually get away with it. Matter of fact, perfect example of that would be a hitman that was actually on that White Boy Rick documentary. He was actually a hitman for hire that was going to kill White Boy Rick and everything, and basically he killed other people, and he was like for hire, and he had no remorse. He goes, I killed a bunch of people. He goes, I don't care. It's just my job. It's just another ordinary day for me in the life of a hitman, which is also basically the same thing for somebody that's a serial killer. It's just an everyday thing for them, like it's a normal part of their routine.
Well, is it in the upbringing, or is it in their DNA? You know, I mean, is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it both? You know, is it a combination? But the one guy that I like the best, I couldn't fit him in my book, of course. He's the hitman, the Iceman. Have you ever seen that one, the Iceman? He'd go home to his family after chopping people up, and like it was nothing. You know, and he had a family. It was crazy.
You see people put on masks every single day. You don't know what kind of things that other people are doing. And that's also another thing, too, where you actually have Dexter, who actually has a wife, and he has a stepfather to kids, putting on a mask he describes in the first season, just pretending to try and fit in with society and everything. And he also questions society. He questions a lot of stuff. He's very complex in his own way, and he's wondering, too, am I actually the one who's actually acting to fit in, or are they actually acting to fit in? And everything, too. So I like how certain mindsets on certain shows gives us that complexity, and also in books of the complexity of a serial killer, and puts us into a psychological kind of thrill ride whenever we're watching something or reading something. It's like a roller coaster ride. We're there for the thrill, you know?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I just always been intrigued by people who could just go out and where's that line? Where do you just jump off the fence and say, that's it, I'm going to kill you? You know what I mean? When and how does that happen? So That's why I've always been intrigued, and just.
I can understand that, though, to be honest with you. It's like, where's their thought process? What makes them tick? What goes through their heads to do something like this? Because in our brains, it's like, I can't do anything like this and everything. But for them, it's like, hey, no problem. I'll go on ahead, do whatever I need to do, and that's it. Wash the blood off, go home, spend time with my kids, and be done with it. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how? It's just it's a very dark place to be at, you know? But here's the thing. My other question is this: what are some common traps for aspiring writers, or if there is any traps that you find aspiring writers doing?
Well, I'm no expert on that matter, but because you know, I procrastinated for 23 years, so I guess if I had to say anything, I'd say don't procrastinate. And like you said, you gotta have a little confidence in yourself and just go for it, go for broke. And so I guess don't doubt yourself, and definitely make an outline and follow that outline. You know what I mean? Because that's going to help you. And then for sure have a couple other people look at it and bounce your ideas off those, people. So because if you just do everything yourself and you proofread it yourself and you have this story, and then I think it's perfect. You know what I mean? I read it and read it and read it, and I'm like, oh, it's perfect. But I handed it to somebody else to read, and they're like, oh, what about this? What about that? I'm kind of lost here. Maybe you should, maybe you should explain that he has a Southern accent, and, continue that for a couple chapters and then drop it off when they finally catch up. Because that's the one thing about keeping it simple. I did not want to write in a Southern accent per se, because I'd have all kinds of misspellings in my book doing that. You know what I mean?
Right, because you try to do the dialect of the Southern accent, and then before you know it, you're so focused in on the Southern accent that you lose focus on what the actual plot is. And to me, you don't really need to have that. Just make it as simplistic as you can and make it its own thing. Let people interpret it the way that they need to interpret it. Whatever dialect that the character has, let the reader decide if this person needs to have that dialect without having to worry about what the dialect and the dialogue is supposed to be like or sound like. Because each reader has their own viewpoint of how that dialect and that accent's supposed to be. And that uses the imagination and stuff like that, and also speculation. And here's the thing. I love when authors gives us speculation. It gives us a chance to use our imagination. I don't like things explained to me. You know what I mean?
Good.
I like to use speculations because I like to geek out. I like to talk to my friends about stuff. And for things to be explained and everything, I don't need that. I don't need certain things to be explained to me. Just give me a simple story with simplistic stuff. Don't have to be rocket science-y or anything like that. And I'm good to go, because I like to actually have fun with it. I like to speculate. I like to use my imagination. But that's just me, though, as someone that likes to read and watch movies and everything, too. I just like simplistic stuff compared to, don't get me wrong, I have a sci-fi brain, but I also like to also enjoy some simple stuff as well. But
it's pretty simple, I think, in the long run. My book, I try to keep it simple,
Right.
So.
Well, that's great. Let's see. As a writer, what would you choose as your mascot and avatar?
Well, I never really even thought about that, but actually, let's see if I can do it. This guy right here would be a good avatar.
I would have to say that would be a good mascot and everything too.
But I guess now that I'm thinking about it, I have to go back to my Forrest Gump guy. Let's get him out there with a knife in his hand. Tom Hanks with a knife in his hand. Let's do it.
All I can think of is Forrest Gump just napping and he's talking to somebody on the bench, and all of a sudden he goes, "My mama always said knife is a box of chocolates instead of life is like a box of chocolates."
Oh, but that's a good one too. Knife is like a box of chocolates.
My other thing is too, I love the artwork when it comes down to the book and everything. How did you come up with the artwork for it?
Well, I learned a lot of things as I went along, and one of them was I had to figure out what I wanted for a book cover. And so I went on a couple of different websites that have book cover designers, and they have their book covers out there, and I've seen different ones that I like. But it came down to this one and another one, and I chose this one because, well, the other one was just like blood, little spots of blood everywhere, and I wanted some little, because if I was going to name it It's in the Blood, I probably would have used that one. But because Crazy Is as Crazy Does, I had to find something a little bit crazy in it. And that was crazy. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because the guy who actually did the book cover for me, his name is Valdas Miss Guinness. I don't want to kill his name, but it's in my book. You'll see it in the front. It's in the preface there. And he actually shared the story with me of where he found that picture. You want to take a guess of where he found the picture?
Tell me. I'm intrigued.
In a Russian prison. Somebody drew it on the wall. So a psycho drew that picture. Now the only difference with the picture with this guy's picture and the original pictures, the original picture had a regular round head, but I asked him to make it into a flat top because John Goodman has a flat top because he, kind of looks like Forrest Gump.
Right. But I still like it. I like the idea of something like that because it is crazy. It's exactly what you described. As crazy as crazy does. It's crazy to think that a prisoner would actually write something like that on a wall, especially in a Russian prison. So that is definitely crazy as crazy does because he's crazy enough just to do it. So
well, he didn't write the crazy as crazy does, but he did draw the picture. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think I actually like that concept on how real it actually is and everything too. You have some, even with the book cover, you have some fiction mixed in with nonfiction stuff and everything too, and that makes it even more interesting to where you can actually draw people in with that and everything too. I can see you at a book convention or at a book signing and then explain the book cover to it, and people be that much enthused and wanting to read it and everything. Because I know if let's say for instance, I'm at a book signing and I wanted an autograph from you, and you told me that story, I'm going to be honest with you. As soon as I leave that bookstore, I'm going straight home, and I'm going to be reading this book nonstop because of what you told me.
Because a lot of fact in with the fiction,
exactly. And it's like a what if kind of thing, kind of like what Tarantino does with his World War II thing with the Inglourious Bastards, for example. You have like a what if scenario thing. And you also have this with this character, a what if scenario. What if John Goodman met Ted Bundy? What if he met Jim Morrison? What if? And I like that. I like that little bit of a game changer thing because we don't get that a lot within books that much, to me. At least with some of the stuff I read anyways, but still, I'm definitely intrigued with it. So my other thing is this, before I know that we had some other questions and everything, but before we wrap up, my other thing is I have two other questions for you. And do you plan on doing more books in the future, writing more stuff? Because I'm interested in knowing what else you have planned. If you have anything planned.
Well, I don't know. It takes me, I'm lazy to a point, but it's funny you asked that because originally, no, I wasn't going to write another book. I actually was going to end it differently than I did to take that equation out, but something told me just don't end it that way, end it this way. And I actually have there's deep, dark thoughts that come in the middle of the night that for young William, and I'm starting to have a book about young William develop in my head. Will it ever come out? I don't know yet. I don't think I have that, but I always said it with this one. I don't think I have that much stuff, but if you just keep writing every little thing down, whether you think it matters or not, eventually you're going to have a stack of books in front of you, and then you can pull all that stuff back out and make sense of it, put it in order. So in your short answer is no, I don't plan on writing another book, but maybe, just maybe, there's one more coming. I might be good for one more.
Okay. Because here's the thing. I like the fact that people take their time to write a book rather than going ahead and spinning one out after the next and everything and just letting it sizzle for a little bit, let it marinate. And then before you know it, you have this nice juicy steak that you're trying to process and everything and getting ready for it to prepare. And I look at book writing and screenwriting in the same way as cooking a steak. Because you need to put your seasonings on there. You got to let it go on ahead, marinate a little bit, come back to it, let it go on ahead and let it sit overnight. And then before you know it, the next morning, you're ready to go on ahead and cook that steak up. And then before you know it, you're ready to digest it and do everything. I feel the same way about art. I feel the same way about music and stuff like that too. So, in writing, it's the same concept. And I hope
a screenwriter finds my book and does that job for me, because I don't think I'm a screenwriter at all. But
but still, I I have to say though too, I also like the movie Seven and everything. Seven is actually one of my favorite movies with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt.
I know what you're talking about.
And I can actually see a little bit of that detective work that's going. Even though I haven't read the book, I can still picture it being on that kind of level and that kind of scale, though, on that kind of crazy level of a serial killer like Kevin Spacey did.
Yeah, well, that's funny because that was another book that I didn't mention about, what motivated me and all that,
Right.
like Copycat Killer and, the other ones. But yeah, Seven was on that list too, but I just didn't spit it out. But yeah,
it's okay.
I think my book's right up there with Seven.
I can definitely see that just judging by the cover.
It is very graphic though, and some people don't like that. You know what I mean? And I have gotten several. I haven't gotten that many reviews, but I've gotten a mixed.
That's
you either
thing.
love it or you hate it. Maybe I don't know if I kept it too simple, and some people don't get it. I think the younger generation might not know the people that I'm talking about in the book. So I don't know.
Right. My thing is this though. Do you care about the reviews and stuff like that? That's something I was wondering about too. Is like when it comes down to the reviews, do you pay attention to that, or is like, no, I read my book. Whatever happens, happens. Or as a writer, do you care about that?
I try not to, but yeah, I do care about it a little bit. I think the more positive response I get, the more people will be more interested in, but I have seen books out there that got a lot of negative reviews along with a lot of good ones. And I think that's what's going to happen to me. I'm going to, like I said, you either get it or you don't get it. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
It is graphic. I don't know. Maybe I kept it too simple at the end because I've been accused. One of the persons accused me of what did I can't quote them word for word right at the moment, but they accused me of must have had a deadline or a quota or something to do, so I ended it really quick. Well, that was a decision I made because I kept some of the gore out at the end. You know what I mean? Because those people didn't. The people at some of the people at the end didn't really matter, and I didn't want to get into detail about how the blood spurted out or didn't spurt out. I'll leave that up to your imagination. And I didn't want to get away from the point, the point of John himself. So,
and also too, maybe you're gonna go back and revisit this later on. You can do a spin-off book or a sequel to the book later on.
Well, that's the other thing I was thinking too, is, that some of these people, I keep them coming, whether they're good, positive, bad, whatever, keep them coming. I don't care either way, because I'll take what you say and maybe I can incorporate it into a second edition and just make it better.
Exactly.
But I just want to justify some of my actions, and it's hard because I can't talk back to these people and say, no, this was my thinking for this. I wish I could. I really do.
If only there was like a social media for authors and book writers for their fans or followers, to where you can comment back and forth. I wish there was like a community where you can do that, aside from Facebook and all that. It's just for people who love reading and wanting to interact with their favorite author. I wish they had something like that.
I think they kind of do. There's so many different ones out there though on Facebook. There's so many different. But hey, if you ever have you read my book and you have a question, find me on Facebook, instant message me, and I'll tell you exactly why I did what I did or said what I said. So please feel free, maybe that will help you understand the book better. If you're one of those that are like, what the heck is he talking about?
Exactly, man. Exactly. Well, look, I know that I had some more stuff I wanted to ask you, but I would like to actually have you back on again for another Q&A in the future, if you're down for that.
Always, yeah.
Because I might actually do something within the might review a movie or something like that in the future, and I might actually have you on for like an interview and / review to where we can continue off some of these questions. But I've been having just having a conversation with you and talking about certain things and things like that. I hope you've had a good time as well, and I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to do this interview. I know you're pretty stacked probably as well as far as your schedule goes. But I
Well, I'm
just want
going
to say
to a
thank you.
Halls and Oates concert tonight, so yeah.
Oh, well, have a good time, man. Have a very good time. I do hope you have a great time over there. My question is this: where can people follow you at if they want to follow you?
Well, I'm not very computer savvy, so I only have my Facebook. So if you find John H. Mudgett, you can find me real easy because this guy's on the right there. So that's pretty much the only place you can follow me right now.
Okay. With that being said, guys, that's gonna
But you
do
can buy
it.
my book on Amazon.
Yep. Going ahead, plug that in. I want you to plug your book on Amazon, and I'll also have that in the link below.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, that, and if you're a Kindle reader, you can get it for free. So there you go.
Okay. And guys, here's the thing. If you guys want to, go on ahead and go over to Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite on Facebook. That's where you can follow me at. And of course, you can go on Instagram underneath the same brand name and on Pinterest as well. We also go on I actually teamed up with two Blur girls to do a charity event for Cincy. That's in the comment. That's in the link below. You donate $5 to $10 towards the cause for St. Jude's for children who have cancer and things like that. Don't worry about my page. Don't worry about donating $5, $10 towards me. Let this be about St. Jude's, about saving the children and stuff like that who have cancer. So go on ahead, click that link below, and the donations go towards the cause and St. Jude's. Now, if you want to get an audio-only podcast episode of this show and many shows that we do here at Movie Lovers Tonight, you can get that where you guys get your podcast from. Also, too, if you're also a podcaster, or if you'd like to listen to podcasts, go over to Good Pods. Go over to Good Pods. It's an easy app. It's easy to use. It's user-friendly. And give us a rating. Give us a 5-star rating if you think our episodes are 5-star. If not, give us a 4-star. I don't care. Just give us a rating. Tell us what you think about Movie Lovers Unite. And also, too, go on ahead and share the episodes that we have over there. We have over 400 episodes over at Good Pods or on Apple Podcasts, where you guys get your podcasts from. Just rate us. It helps us with the ratings and stuff like that. It's easy for people to find us at. Also, too, if you want to go on ahead and follow me on Twitter, how do you do that? Just go over to Movie Lovers Unit over there. And then, of course, you guys can go over to Stereo and follow me on their Movie Lovers Unit over there. If we do some stuff over there on Stereo from time to time, we haven't done any in a while, but if you guys want to, go on and check me out over there. And then if you're a sponsor and would like to reach out to me, just go on ahead, email me at movieloversunite@gmail.com. And of course, you can go on ahead and get all your entertainment needs and wants at movieloversunite.com. And thank you again, John. I do appreciate you once again for this interview and taking your time out of your night. Enjoy your concert. Always until next time, guys. It's been real. It's been fun. I can't wait to do this again. And bye-bye.
Bye. It's been real fun. Thanks again, John.
Not a problem, man.
Hello to everybody who's watching that knows I'm on here.